Alright guys, it is a fine day here in the end times. There are some storm clouds gathering here on Saturday, April 2nd, 2016. So this is part 2 of my rant that's been building for quite some time, called A Glossary for the End Times, where I am just sitting here going over a variety of terms to help you navigate navigate life in the end times. So in volume 1, which I just wrapped up, we defined and discussed the terms end times, eco-Nazi, clueless moron, sheeple, apocalyptimist, techno-utopian, limp dick mainstream environmentalist, bliss ninny, and conspiratard. And in volume 2, we're going to begin with the term you've heard many times, a depressed collapsitarian. Depressed collapsitarian has a lot of overlap with the term eco-Nazi. A collapsitarian is someone who has just read the handwriting on the wall and understands on a cellular level that from this point out there is no avoiding the collapse. There is no way we're going to avoid certainly the impending and long overdue collapse of global industrial civilization. And we also understand that the earlier that happens, the better the chance, the only chance, that human beings and the rest of the earthlings we share this planet with aren't going to collapse along with global industrial civilization. So a collapsitarian in many ways is the same as eco-Nazi. Of course, the other word in here is depressed. And now clearly, once you understand the level of crisis we're in, and you reach the level of existential despair this knowledge brings you, the whole driving force or lack of force behind the rest of your life is how are you going to spend the rest of your life with the knowledge that we're fucked, and not just completely descend into a bottomless pit of despair, depression, and rage and grief. And this is the big question. But that is what a depressed collapsitarian is. So now, as long as we're in this manner of thinking, we also have a term that was recently revealed to me from a book of interviews. I forgot who the fellow was that Derek Jensen was interviewing. The term hopeless vagabond. A hopeless vagabond, this fellow Max Oschlanger, or whoever he was, telling Derek Jensen that anybody who pulls their head out of their ass and understands the level of crisis that we're in, and tries to reorganize their life to live with that knowledge that they are, that anybody who has not pulled their head out of their ass at least would look at that person and fully understand that they are on the road to personal economic ruin, and they will end up as a hopeless vagabond. And I am a living proof of being a hopeless vagabond, collapsed, depressed collapsitarian, and an eco-Nazi. There's some very subtle shades of gray between these three. Can a person be an eco-Nazi without becoming a depressed collapsitarian and a hopeless vagabond? And I'll have to say, after 8 years of being down this rabbit hole, it's looking more and more like the answer to that question is no. Once you take the red pill, there is no taking the blue pill to get back out of this rabbit hole. Now, I need to thank my buddy Valhalla56 for suggesting this term. It hasn't gotten into vogue yet, but it probably will. The degree of suckiness. The degree of suckiness, if I understand my buddy right, I think what he's talking about, at least this is my interpretation, is when you wake up in the morning and understand that that we haven't crashed and burned during the night. The only thing left to determine for the balance of your day, pretty much, if not the balance of your life, is the degree of suckiness. That, I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, you're hoping you're hoping that you're going to hover down maybe around a 2 or 3 in your degree of suckiness. Okay, on a broader scale, this term you've probably heard, the Anthropocene. The Anthropocene, otherwise known as the age of humans. There's probably no ecologist left on the planet who wouldn't say that we are now in the age of the Anthropocene, meaning that humans have now become a geological force on this planet. That we have fucked things up so royally that we essentially carry the same weight as the asteroid that slammed in to the Earth 65 million years ago, causing the 5th mass extinction. And this is why the Anthropocene is the age that is going to precede the 6th mass extinction, as the 6th mass extinction is rolling out. Now, I prefer to call the Anthropocene the Plasticine, the age of plastic, because I understand that in about 10 million years or so, when the Earth has recovered from the geological force of humanity bringing on the 6th mass extinction, that we're going to be the irradiated cockroaches that survive us to fill in all the future ecological niches. When they're digging around about 100 feet down in the dirt 10 million years from now, they're going to encounter this little, it's going to be about a 1/4 inch band of this weird material, all different colors, red, blue, yellow, purple, in this about a 1/4 inch thick. And it's going to be this kind of like what we're seeing from the younger Dryas miniature mass extinction, this iridium layer. Well, this is going to be this weird layer of this bizarre shit called plastic, is going to be the marker of humanity. That is the geological record we are going to leave on this planet. It will be the quickest geological age in the history of the planet, whether you want to call it the Plasticine or the Anthropocene. And this certainly ties in with this whole concept of near-term human extinction. If you have ever heard heard of Guy McPherson, he's like the god of near-term human extinction, otherwise called NTHE. Now, Guy McPherson believes, perhaps correctly, who knows, that humans will be extinct by the year 2030. In, what is that, 14 years. That's pretty damn near term. So I guess once again it's kind of like the whole term the end times. What is your definition of near? Near term. Whether it's 14 years or 1400 years, if we've been around on the planet for 200,000 years, it is pretty goddamn near. I personally think we're going to be around longer than 14 years, but not so sure about 1400 years. But of course, Guy McPherson, the main thing that he's basing his conclusions on is this term you're going to hear more and more, abrupt climate change. And of course, abrupt, again, is like, what's the definition of abrupt? Well, if it's a process such as normal changes in global climate patterns that normally take hundreds and probably thousands of years to unfold literally at glacial paces, giving the organisms, dependent on that climate, time to evolve along with them. If that's normally takes thousands of years, and suddenly, instead of thousands of years, it takes decades, that sounds pretty goddamn abrupt to me. And more and more and more of these climate studies coming out, particularly this year, 2016, every one of these studies coming out is showing more and more of these climatologists getting on the bandwagon that we are in the middle, well, the beginning now, but we are in abrupt climate change, and that the shit is hitting the fan right now as I speak. Now, of course, there are some other terms for abrupt climate change. Of course, we have climate chaos. That is another term for abrupt climate change. And my favorite, going Venus. If you hear these doomsday prophets talking about going Venus, that is another term for abrupt climate change. But whichever term you want to use, it will be most likely, according to Guy McPherson and all of these climatologists whose research he bases his conclusions on, it will be due to abrupt climate change. And so this brings me into a related field